Hey everybody, welcome to Reflections, the Wisdom of Edgar Cayce. We are coming to you as always courtesy of our broadcasting partner moretalk.tv. This week on the show joining me is Patrick Belisle. Patrick is a longtime student of the Edgar Cayce material, a leader of A.R.E tours and travel programs, and for almost the past decade, Pat has been the director of A.R.E's development office, raising over $30 million and counting. Before arriving at the Association for Research and Enlightenment, Pat spent 4 years testing universal laws while traveling around the world and North America. He lived with Buddhist monks in Thailand, Catholic monks in Minnesota, and had a transformative mystical experience at an ashram in India. Pat has been teaching meditation and dream work to young people at A.R.E camp for 20 years and has been a speaker around the country. His presentations blend vibrant humor with deep substance as he aims to help others find their own path to fulfillment. Pat is mentoring the upcoming online learning course entitled Creating the Life You Want or Perfecting the Life You Have. This is going to run from April 6th to May 3rd. For details, you can visit edgarcayce.org/mentored courses. Also, Pat and his wife Jane will lead the A.R.E Bermuda Cruise Mysteries of Bermuda tour. And this is from October 23rd through the 30th of this year, 2016. And if you'd like to register for that, you can also visit our website at edgarcayce.org/tours. Pat, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Thanks, Brent. I'm really happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. And Pat, as director of the development office at the A.R.E, how have you seen the department evolve in your time working with the A.R.E, and also what has been kind of your latest focus since the CREATE campaign has come to a close?
Right. Well, just so your listeners understand, development really is just a code word for fundraising. So development director just means I'm the head fundraiser for the A.R.E. And when I got to the A.R.E, they were raising about $1.5 million a year. And over the last bunch of years, I got there 8 or 9 years ago, and now we're raising close to $4 million a year on average. So we've made some good changes along that way, one of which was including the bigger donors in a bunch of parties, because I'm a social guy, and I wanted to make sure our best donors felt recognized and appreciated. So we put together our Golden Circle member or donor appreciation parties. We do that a few times a year. That was a big change. We really focused on what's called planned giving, where people put us in their estate plans, their wills and that sort of thing. So we went from 100 members of our Edgar Cayce Legacy Society to over 330 today. So we made a lot of changes that led to some good abundance for the A.R.E. Oh, and then you mentioned the CREATE campaign. We just wrapped up that multi-year fundraising campaign in December, and we had a $30 million goal, and we actually reached $31.7 million. So that was pretty fantastic. I know. And Kevin Tedeschi wants me to tell you and your listeners that it's all been spent already, so don't think we're sitting on a pile of gold. We've built new buildings and invested a lot in our programs and technology. We got some of that money, almost $2 million for endowments. So that money is invested for perpetuity. So we still have lots of fundraising needs at the A.R.E. I don't want people to think that because we raised all that money that our needs are behind us.
And Pat, you have so often had to be the spokesperson for the organization, going around and raising money from these donors over the years. I'm curious, how does one inspire individuals to donate to an organization like the A.R.E. in order to keep the work alive and well?
Well, the good news is that I come into it when people are already inspired. In other words, most people that I meet with and talk with are already A.R.E. members, many of them A.R.E. Life members, so they've already committed to the organization being important to them. They've already had some level of transformation in their lives as a result of the Cayce readings. And so, and in fact, most of the people I'm meeting with are already donating to the organization at some level. So they've already self-identified as, caring about the mission and being willing to support it at some level financially. So that part is pretty simple. People, like I say, are already inspired by the time I get to them. What I do is I'll tell you a story about uh, one of our donors who called one of the very first months I was at the ARE, and he wanted to make a donation to our prison outreach program, which is a fantastic program, helping prisoners, transform their lives by reading Cayce books. Well, this guy wanted to make a donation, and I said, "That's great, Richard. How much are you thinking about?" And he said, $10,000. I said, "Wow." I said, "We don't get calls like that every day." I said, "Why are you so passionate about the prison outreach program?" And there was a pause, and he said, "It's because I spent a year in prison myself for tax evasion, and I met all these guys in prison who were in there for 10 years or life and who had given up hope. And they were blaming others for their life, their life circumstances." And he said, "I believe that the Cayce material is those guys' best chance to transform their lives and help them make different decisions to be constructive and positive." He said, "I would like to get as many Cayce books into the hands of prisoners before I die as I can." I said, "Wow, well, I can help you with that." So, I mean, he said it. He was already inspired to help. I just offered a way to let him do that. So we set up an endowment fund that will generate income for many, many years to come, so that even after he passes away, his endowment fund will continue to support the prison outreach program and get Cayce books into the hands of prisoners. So it's that kind of thing that I do. I'm really just the conduit between people who are already inspired and want to help, and then connecting them with the program that they're going to be most passionate about helping.
Right. Absolutely. That's wonderful. Pat, you talked previously about this Create campaign. And when we had you on the show previously, it was kind of at the grassroots level of this Create campaign. And now, as we've moved forward a few years and we talk about the numbers, you've raised over $30 million in this Create campaign. And for our listeners who weren't familiar with what exactly this all entailed, looking back on it now, what did you accomplish with this Create campaign that makes you so proud?
Well, the easy one is every time I walk onto the campus of the ARE in Virginia Beach, I look up on the hill and I see the new Don and Nancy Dulaski Education Center that houses Atlantic University, our Cayce Riley Massage School, and the Edgar Cayce Foundation with all the original readings and correspondence. That beautiful new building is really uplifting to me. And then next door to that is the original Edgar Cayce Hospital building, which was getting pretty run down, and we renovated that building a year or two ago and put a new Casey Miller Cafe in there so people can look out at the ocean as they eat a really delicious lunch from Leaping Lizard. And we also have our spa, health center and spa in that building. And, I think Mr. Cayce would be proud of that too, because he created that building for healing, and we're carrying on that legacy in this beautiful new setting. So that's the easy answer is we built new buildings and renovated old buildings there on our campus. And in fact, we are just starting our visitor center renovation now, also in Virginia Beach. So that's sort of the most tangible thing that I'm most proud of. But the truth is that only $7.5 million of the $31.7 million we raised was for buildings. Over $22 million went for our various programs, like the library, our prayer and meditation program, A.R.E camp, etc. So, we raised a ton of money to invest in those programs to keep them strong and healthy and growing. They're the ones that are changing lives, day by day. So I feel really good about that.
Absolutely. And Pat, I'm curious personally. I've known you for a number of years, and you have such a diverse background. Quite a renaissance man yourself. I'm curious, what initially brought you to the ARE and the work of the Cayce material, and what inspired you to want to work for the ARE?
Well, that I have to go back about 20 years. My wife Jane and I had gotten to a point in our lives in our late 20s where we were kind of asking the questions, is this what life's all about? We just didn't feel as fulfilled as we wanted to and wanted to sort of find more meaning and purpose. And so we'd saved up a little bit of money and decided to take 1 year to travel around the world. When I say a little bit of money, it was $20,000, and that covered an around the world plane ticket and then all of our expenses for a whole year. So we lived pretty frugally, let's say, but we had this amazing experience. We meditated with Buddhist monks in Thailand. We went to this commune in India where we stayed for a month, the Osho commune, and it was there that I had a mystical experience that I just could not explain, with any of the science or religion studies that I had done. And so I came back to America looking for answers about what happened to me and how it was possible in a three-dimensional universe for this, what I'll call this oneness mystical experience to have happened. And of course, in my research, I came across this guy I'd never heard of before, Edgar Cayce. And Edgar Cayce's worldview helped me make sense of, everything that had happened to me. Plus, it allowed me to start adding back in some of my Catholicism that I'd grown up with, but had left behind on my broader spiritual search. Because, as you know, Edgar Cayce combines Eastern ideas and mysticism with Christian mysticism. And so that was a nice thing that I was able to bring that back in because of Mr. Cayce. Well, then I found out that A.R.E has this summer camp, and I really felt called to work with young people and teach them meditation, watch their dreams for meaning, and so on. So I went to work at A.R.E camp for $90 a week, plus room and board. It was a real act of love and service, and I just fell in love with camp. It's way down in southwestern Virginia on 3,000 acres of mountain valley, just absolutely spectacular. And we eat the Cayce diet, we do the Cayce exercises, we sing and we laugh, we talk about our dreams and all sorts of meaningfulness and how to love each other. It's just absolutely wonderful. So I fell in love with that camp. I committed every year to going down there as a counselor, no matter what other jobs I got along the way. And in the meantime, I was running nonprofits and raising money for them in Charlottesville, Virginia, where I still live. And when Kevin Tedeschi got the job of CEO after Charles Thomas Cayce retired, Kevin had heard about me through A.R.E camp, that I had this background in fundraising and so on. And he, as the new CEO, had some big ideas that he knew would need some funding. And so he called me in Charlottesville when I was working for the University of Virginia, raising money. And he said, come on down and work for the A.R.E. I want to get serious about raising money. So, the Achilles heel of all A.R.E members is when the call comes, here I am. Let me, let me serve. Send me, use me. And so when Kevin Tedeschi calls and says, "Come on down and help the A.R.E," you can't say no. So, so I said yes, and that was 9 years ago.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for taking us through that. That's wonderful. And Pat, you mentioned something that I'd want to touch on a little bit here, because I think the A.R.E camp is really such a unique program that they have going for them. And you said you've been involved with it for a number of years. I'm curious from your personal experience teaching young adults and kids meditation and dream work, things like that, things from the Cayce readings. What has your experience been like with that? What's been the most rewarding thing for you? And also, a second question would be, do you feel like the future is in good hands? Because I know today so many people worry about the younger generations and whether they're going to carry us into the future and make the lasting changes that are going to solve the issues that are going on today. What is your feeling after working with kids for so many years?
Well, in the biggest picture, I absolutely have faith that we're all in higher hands. And so, I know that the future is going to be exactly what it needs to be to fulfill all of our destinies, let's say. Uh, so, in that sense, I have a base level of calm. At the same time, yeah, if it were up to me, in terms of waving my magic wand and changing things in the universe, or at least in our country, um, yeah, there would be a lot less screen time for kids and a lot more time out in nature and talking about things like watching their dreams for meaning and just being in themselves as opposed to on computers or in front of televisions. So I definitely would have that changed, but I'm not one of these guys that bashes anybody or judges anybody for putting their kid in front of a TV screen when they're getting ornery or or rambunctious. Uh, but yeah, I really do encourage parents to consider things like A.R.E camp and at least exposing their children to these ideas like meditation and dreams. And it's okay if they don't know how to get their kids interested in this stuff. Come on and spend a week with us at family camp. We have not only children's camp, but we have a couple weeks of family camp, which is all ages. So we take the kids while the adults go to some cool programming, and we work with the kids while the adults do their thing, and then the families come back together and go for hikes or swims or, again, sing songs or do puppet shows or whatever. So I'd really encourage all parents or grandparents, whoever's got kids in their lives, to check into some of the things that A.R.E offers for young people, because it really does give me hope for the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pat. And I want to change subjects a little bit here. You have so much going on. You're always working on different things here at the A.R.E. One of your upcoming projects is an online course, and your online course is titled Creating the Life You Want. I'm curious, Pat, how did this online course come about for you, and what can those looking to register expect from you as a mentor in this course?
Yeah, good question. It came about because I hate to admit it, but for instance, I'm in Florida right now. I'm in Naples, Florida, on A.R.E business, but I've had to go fishing twice and spend some time outside with donors, living the life, as you might say, and so a lot of my colleagues sometimes tease me about that. Nice life. Yes, they don't see that I'm neglecting my home life, but I do have a pretty good thing going. And I just have always seemed to fall into these lucky situations. But of course, it's not luck. It's all based around choices that I've made in my life and attitudes that I hold. And I know that. And so when the woman that was in charge of creating these online mentored groups uh, was teasing me one day about the life that I have created for myself, she said, "Well, why don't you teach a course about creating the life you want or perfecting the life you have, based on your experience and also the Cayce readings and universal law." And so that's what it is. I start everybody off in the online course talking about ideals, spiritual ideals, and Edgar Cayce, you might know this, Brent. Edgar Cayce, who didn't tend to give broad brush advice to people, uh, actually said that creating your spiritual ideal is the most important thing any of us can do in a lifetime. And so I'm helping people through a couple different ways create their spiritual ideal, which becomes like a touchstone in making any decision in their life. So, for instance, my spiritual ideal is love. And so any decision I make in my life, I have to say, is that leading me toward love or away from love? So I help people create their spiritual ideal. We do some mandalas, so there's an art project involved. We do a little bit of hypnosis and visualization. Um, so again, it's not about the life I want people to have. It's about the life that they want to have. And I've taught the course one other time, and I had a lot of people who were in transition in their lives. They had just gone through a divorce, or somebody had recently passed away, or their kids just went off to college, whatever it was. There was some big transition going on, and they wanted to create this next phase of their life. And boy, we had a great time. Lots of really creative, amazing people, you know, came out of this with really great tangible advice. That's the thing is, I don't want it just to be esoteric, blah blah blah. I would actually want to give people, whether it's work, relationships, some part of their life. I really want it to be a tangible, positive result at the end of our course. So that's what folks can expect. Starts on April 6th, and it's just 4 weeks long, I think. So and it goes at your own pace. So we've already done some videos and worksheets and that sort of thing, and then we have interaction online throughout that whole month of the course. So again, it's very easy, self-paced, and I think it's only around $100. So I hope people sign up.
Excellent. Thanks, Pat. And Pat, I want to talk about another thing that you're involved with the A.R.E, and that's the tours that they do around the world. You are a known tour leader for the A.R.E, and I'm curious with your experience leading these tours and being immersed in these incredible areas around the world that the A.R.E goes to. What can our listeners expect from an A.R.E tour? What can you tell us that makes an A.R.E tour unique and different from other tours?
Well, of course, the thing that makes A.R.E tours unique is the people, not just the tour guide, but the participants themselves. So every person that comes along has a unique perspective on the world that generally revolves around an Edgar Cayce perspective on the world. So, I've had a lot of people on my tours in the past who just feel so liberated coming on an A.R.E tour because maybe in their hometown they can't talk about things like reincarnation openly or dreams or whatever it is. Atlantis, for instance, Jane and I are leading this tour, this cruise from New York to Bermuda in October, and we're focusing a big chunk of that on what Edgar Cayce has to say about Atlantis, because of course Atlantis, in Cayce's view, stretched from Europe essentially to North America, and so Bermuda is part of the leftovers of Atlantis. So I'm putting together some really neat interviews with Greg and Laura Little, who are Cayce experts on Atlantis, John Van Auken, and so we're going to have insights, the inside scoop for the folks on the cruise. So again, we get to talk about all these kind of interesting subjects. I'm going to offer a past life regression, a group regression for folks on the tour. You just don't get that sort of thing on your typical non-A.R.E tour, let's say. So they are very unique and lots of fun.
Excellent. Thank you. And Pat, I'm curious, you have being the spokesperson for the A.R.E for so many people dealing with donors over the years. I'm curious, have you found any big misconceptions about the A.R.E or the life of Edgar Cayce? Is there any one that you found in particular that people seem to just keep coming up, that people, I guess the way people look at the A.R.E or Edgar Cayce, what's the biggest misconception you find?
Well, I mean, if you want to go to that extreme, the biggest misconception is that we're all flaky and flighty New Age people wearing our little tinfoil hats and waiting for the mother ship. I mean, that's sort of in a nutshell what I think some of mainstream America thinks about what we might term New Age people or ideas. And of course, in my line of work and representing the A.R.E, like you say, going all around the country and around the world, what I've actually found is we have so many amazing, creative, very real-world, grounded people. These people that are making donations to the A.R.E have come from businesses that they created themselves and grew and made lots of money. and whether it's real estate investing or software businesses or whatever it is, they've come through the real world with these new age ideas intact. Uh, so, like I say, that's been really a fun thing for me. Last year, when Jane and I led the A.R.E tour to Quebec, we had a retired four-star general on our tour. He credits Edgar Cayce with getting him to be one of only two men ever to go from enlisted man to four-star general. He led the Air Force for a number of years, this guy, and credits Edgar Cayce for, again, his rise to that position. So these are real world people, not new age flighty flakies. So that's the biggest thing for me, is the people.
Right. Absolutely. I like that. Thank you. And Pat,
Mm-hmm.
what can you tell us about what's in the works? I know we've talked about this Crate campaign and all these incredible renovations, but as we look forward, I'm sure you have a projection of, years into the future. What can you tell us the ARE has in the works to come?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. So things we're still raising money for instance, include ARE Camp. We have a dining hall that burned down last June, and we still have to raise a couple $100,000 to build the new one. Um, I mentioned the Visitor Center renovations in Virginia Beach. We're just starting those renovations, so we're still raising money for that. Um, in a bigger sense, Kevin Tedeschi and Charles Thomas Cayce have been working with Hollywood to create an Edgar Cayce movie, and that's getting very close. So I hope people keep tuned for that. That's going to be a really big boon to get this information out into the world. We're really focusing a lot on technology. We're doing a website upgrade this summer. So again, folks should go to edgarcayce.org and watch for those beautiful web updates. It's been a while since we've updated our website, so we're all looking forward to that. We just got some of our apps. We have a couple of apps, the Edgar Cayce Dream Dictionary, Dream app, and also Edgar Cayce Thought of the Day. And we have a donor who gave us some money to translate those into Chinese, because there's a lot of Chinese, and Edgar Cayce talked about China being the future cradle of Christianity, and we're hoping it's a Cayce type Christianity. And so this donor gave us money to put those apps into Chinese. So we're really trying to move in that direction and spread this message to souls who speak all sorts of different languages. We have Spanish outreach, Chinese. So we're really still looking to get the information out to the globe, Brent. Oh, and one other thing, just in terms of the fundraising, we've really been looking to build up our endowment. We turned 85 years old this year as an organization, but our endowment is still less than $10 million. And endowment is really like our savings account for the future. And so we really want to beef that up to make sure that the ARE is around for our next lifetime.
Absolutely. Generations to come, for sure. Pat, I'm curious, with all your years involved with the ARE, what has been your proudest moment being a part of the ARE family?
Oy, boy, there's a couple of things that pop into my mind. One moment in terms of my professional life, my proudest moment was probably putting together the grand opening ceremony and event for our buildings on the hill that I talked about, the new education center and cafe health center. We had a big party almost 2 years ago now, I can't believe it, where we had the mayor of Virginia Beach, who was saying wonderful things about the ARE and how it's transformed the world's consciousness. I mean, the mayor of Virginia Beach, as well as our most important donors and board members and staff who've been part of this over the years, just all coming together as one and celebrating this massive achievement. That was a very proud moment, I have to say. But when you come down to out of the professional realm and more into my heart, my proudest moments have been, and I'll try not to get teary here because when I get down to that heart, I go right to A.R.E camp, and all the kids' faces flash in front of my eyes who I worked with over the years who had come in one way and left transformed in another way. I remember one particular girl who, you know, only saw herself as beautiful, and she wore makeup, and she, dressed and did all this. Well, we went on a 2-week long hike with her, and you can't bring makeup on a 2-week long hike. By the end of the 2 weeks, she realized that we loved her for who she really was, not how she looked. She had overcome some fears, like heights. She actually went rock climbing with us at the end of that 2-week hike, overcoming her fear of heights because she trusted us and knew we cared about her and would keep her safe. So those are the kind of proud moments that really matter to me, is how we've transformed individuals over the years.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. Thank you, Pat. And one thing I've always admired about you, Pat, is you really live the Cayce principles to the best of your ability. You have ideals and you stick to them, and you can feel that when you're around you. In saying that, you're in a position to be a mentor and give advice to people on almost a daily basis. So for our listeners out there, I'll use this as our last question. Is there any message you can give to our listeners out there who may be struggling right now to just kind of make it through a bit of a difficult time right now in history, maybe struggling with their personal life? What advice would you give our listeners who are struggling?
Well, I'll come right back to that spiritual ideal. If their ideal is love or truth or beauty, put that right in front of them and then take one step each day toward that ideal. In other words, I have a friend, for instance, going through a divorce right now and really struggling with it. And, he's angry and he's sad and he's, having all these emotions come up. And I keep reminding him just to do the right thing. Do the thing that's going to keep his self-respect, that's going to move him toward love. Don't burn bridges and be destructive, but keep forgiving best he can, keep open and loving, keep that heart soft instead of scarring over and getting hard. Again, just take one step toward that ideal in the moment. That's all we can do, man. Just improve one step at a time.
Lovely. Well, thank you, Pat, so much. Thank you for that advice, and thank you for giving us time today on the show. It's always a pleasure listening to you and your wisdom, and thank you so much for doing what you've done for the A.R.E. It's personally, I appreciate it, and I know the A.R.E. community absolutely appreciates you and adores you. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Brent. It's been a joy.
All right, take care, Pat. Thank you.
You bet. See you all online. Bye.
Don't forget, Pat is mentoring the online learning course entitled Creating the Life You Want or Perfecting the Life You Have. It runs from April 6th to May 3rd. You can register now at edgarcayce.org/mentored courses. Also, heads up, Pat and his wife Jane will lead the A.R.E Bermuda Cruise Mysteries of Bermuda tour, and that runs from October 23rd through the 30th of this year, 2016. On behalf of everyone here at the Association for Research and Enlightenment and moretalk.tv, thank you so much for tuning in to Reflections, the Wisdom of Edgar Cayce. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week. We look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, much love. And now it is time for the thought for the day today on Reflections. Joining me for the thought for the day today is Dr. Bill Austin. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hi, Brent. Thank you once again for having me. Always a pleasure.
And it's always my pleasure to have you on the show, Bill. And if you can go ahead and read the excerpt from the Cayce readings that we picked out for the thought for the day today.
I'd be happy to. This thought comes from reading 5749-3. In materiality, we find some advance faster, some grow stronger, some become weaklings, until there is redemption through the acceptance of the law or love of God as manifested through the channel or the way. There can be little or no development in a material or spiritual plane. But all must pass under the rod, even as he who entered into materiality. You know, when he's talking about materiality, he's talking about this physical plane. And how this is our field of, or potential field of growth. Doesn't always happen that way. But if we want to grow, then I think we have to start with acceptance of a higher power, of an all-creative force, of God. I was reading one of the work readings, the 254 series of readings the other day, and it was talking about members, and it was talking about, specifically it was talking about board of trustee members for the A.R.E. And there was a very strong statement that no one should be chosen for this position unless they had accepted that God is. And, you know, on first thought, you think, well, gee, how simple is that? Well, sometimes I find myself, you know, feeling like, okay, I accept that God is. Haven't seen the guy yet, but I accept that there is this higher power. I don't know that I'll ever fully understand what that higher power is. But often I feel like I've accepted that. But there are other times, you know, when I feel like my internal dialogue is going so fast, so strong, so loud, that I can set that all off to the side and forget about it. You know, and I think that's part of the learning process that we go through on this plane. We're here to use our will to make the right choice of who we're going to believe in and who we're going to listen to. You know, again and again, the Cayce reason talks about who will be thy God? Who will be thy God? And the response in the readings is, you know, God saying, I will be your God if you will be my people. So, you know, this reading where it says, in materiality, we find some advance faster, some grow stronger, some become weaklings, until there is redemption through the acceptance of the love of God. Yeah. Not much will happen. You know, that's quite a statement. You know, we're trained, I think, from birth to use our will to survive and, quote, make something of ourselves so that we can progress and get things here. But that's not the type of advancement that the readings are talking about. They ever come back to, yes, you're in a physical body, you're on a physical plane, you have physical responsibilities, but you're here for a spiritual awakening, a recognition of who we really are, you know, an acceptance of this divine law or love of God.
Yeah, wonderful, Bill. Thank you. I really don't have much to add to this. You really hit the nail on the head on this one. The only thing that I would add to this was the last sentence in the excerpt. He says, Cayce states, but all must pass under the rod, even as he who entered into materiality. To me, this is a reference to Jesus Christ, I'd assume. And what I love about this reference is Cayce saying that even the capstone, the one that we look at as the way shower, somebody who came into the material world and showed us that there is a way to follow the ways of the Spirit, the ways of patience, long suffering, compassion, unconditional love. There is a way to do that and have it manifest in every moment of your life, on this material plane that we incarnate onto. What I love, as I said, is Cayce gives us that inspiration. He tells us that even Jesus Christ, the one that we look to as the way shower, was human. He came into the material plane, and the reason he came in was to show us that we can all do this. We can use the material plane that we manifest on as a school to learn the fruits of the Spirit, to learn these laws, to learn to accept these laws, that there is a higher power, as you said, there is a God that's working through us constantly if we have, as I always say, the eyes to see that. And to me, this is just an incredibly inspiring reading. What I love about it, too, is that Cayce says, until there is a redemption through the acceptance of the law. He just calls it the law, which I love, because in parentheses, he goes on to say, or love of God as manifested through the channel or the way. So Cayce has his traditional Christian background, which he references in the parentheses here. He says that, the law to me is the love of God, or, specifically the channel or the way, which is the way shown by my traditional Christian, upbringing, as Cayce is saying here. But he calls it a law nonetheless, which a law means that all of us are susceptible to that. This law is a overarching thing that is working through every human being. So whatever your view or idea of what God is, the higher power for you is, Cayce's saying that's fine. I would never step on that. But there's a law that's contained within each of these traditions that that's what it's all about. And he goes on to say how this law is all about patience and long suffering and compassion and love. It's truly, really about love. So that's what I love about this. It's really inspirational, and it comes from his traditional Christian upbringing, but he really gives it that universal flavor that Cayce always brings to the table.
Yes, and I liked how you kept coming back to the word inspire or inspiring. And to me, so many of the readings are inspiring, and they inspire us to apply. And in one of the readings, and I can't remember which one it was, but it talks about inspiration without action is nothing. And he's saying, this is a law. You have to apply it. And the law is accept this higher power, accept this love of God, and go out and apply it. And as you apply it, I think you'll be manifesting that love and also receiving that love.
Absolutely. Bill, thank you so much for joining me on the show today and for sharing your thoughts. I always appreciate it.
It's great. Thank you so much for inviting me, Brent. Have a great day today.
Thank you. You too.